Hey there guys, CrossFlux here, and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. In the last episode, we delved through the Solar Cave and claimed two new prizes for our collection, the Waterfall and the Surf HM. And in today's episode, we're going to put the Waterfall HM to good use by exploring a new post-game dungeon that we've technically had access to ever since the post-game started, and that is the Waterfall Pond. However, we can't actually access it unless we have the Waterfall HM, so you can't really do it until after you've gotten through the Solar Cave. So, I'm going to prepare my inventory and prepare a proper team for it real quick, and we'll head straight in first thing. Alright guys, I'm back, and I brought a team very similar to the one I brought to the Stormy Sea. The only difference is I exchanged Skipper for Grunge, mostly because I want Grunge to gain some more experience so I can evolve him. Or her. I still haven't figured out a gender for that thing yet. And another reason is Skipper being a water type actually isn't going to be good for this dungeon, because some of the Pokemon you can find in here have the water absorb ability. So other than that, grass and electric types are your go-to team members. As far as item preparations go, I recommend bringing a little bit of food item and just some reviver seeds, of course the Waterfall HM. But as far as main staples go, you actually aren't going to need to bring too many of those along with you, seeing as how the Waterfall Pond will supply you with more than enough goodies like that. So, the Waterfall Pond, as the name would suggest, is filled to the brim with water-type Pokemon. This dungeon, however, doesn't have too many, I guess, important uses, I could say. There's no story-related event here. And the items that you can get here are pretty much only staple items, like apples, orange berries, you know, stuff along those lines. So, no rare TMs or fancy orbs or anything along those lines. So, why would you come here? Well, to recruit Pokemon. That's about it. This dungeon pretty much purely exists for recruiting certain Pokemon for your collection. But I'm just going to show it for completion's sake here. Some of the items you can find here in this dungeon will actually be found sticky, which is a condition that some items can have where they're unusable in the dungeon. The only way to remove the stickiness from an item is to exit the dungeon or to use a cleanse orb while in the dungeon. So it makes it a little difficult in that you usually can't use the items that you find in this dungeon, but other than that, it's more of an annoyance than anything. Also interesting here, you can see Shuppet here is fighting a Lotad that's using an item called a Geopebble. So the Geopebble is pretty much the exact same thing as a Graveler Rock, except weaker. It does a flat 15 points of damage instead of 20. So not entirely sure why they put Geopebbles in the game. Maybe it was like a coding error or something during development, but I don't know. Anyways, the wild Pokemon you can find here are pretty weak. No matter what type of team members you bring into this place, I wouldn't say that you'd have really any issues. The only real major threats are Quagsire, Wishcash, and Poliwrath, and you can only find those on the very later floors. So you shouldn't have too many issues getting through here. So that's really all that really needs to be said about this place, so I'm going to leave it at that and go ahead and hit the speed up music now. would seem I have egg on my face. If you notice from that footage, the waterfall pond here actually gave me a bit more trouble than I expected it would. I definitely took a lot more damage from some of those early on Pokemon, especially from Dots, and I had to be really careful with placing him properly. But guys, I think we're not quite done with the episode just yet. I think I'm going to fill out the last little bit with one of the missions that we can do in the Makuhita Dojo. Because if you recall, we finished completely with all the type dungeons. There's actually a few other rescue teams that we can kind of train against by battling them in their own domain. So I'm going to go prepare a new team for a particular team that we're going to take on, and I'll meet you in just a flash. Alright guys, here I formed a team of Pokemon that are all good against grass types, except for Grunge, because I'm still trying to level Grunge up. But yeah, so the reason for that is we're going to take on Shiftry's team himself, Team Shifty. So, as one would imagine, the dungeon will be filled to the brim with grass-type Pokemon. So, Lizzie and Pokey definitely make for excellent team members for this dungeon here. Now, one reason I'm using Lizzie is not just because she's super effective against practically everything in this dungeon, but also because I wanted to show off a glitch that, I'm not entirely sure if it's a glitch or if the designers actually planned for this, but check it out. I actually know the move Flamethrower twice, and this works for, as far as I know, any other move in the game. So, yeah, you can take up multiple move slots with the same move as long as you learn it at a different occasion. For example, Lizzie learned Flamethrower through Level Up, and then I also taught her the Flamethrower TM. So, she learned it twice. As a result, she gets double the power point usage out of it. So, that's definitely pretty handy. Whether or not it's a glitch, I'm going to make the most of it because Flamethrower is a really good move, and I definitely want as much power points for it as I can get. But yeah, so these team, dungeon, dojo missions, whatever you want to call them, are structured the same way as the type dungeons. There's just 2 floors of wild Pokemon, followed up with a boss fight at the end. So the Nuzleaf that you can encounter here are really low level, and they're not that much of a threat at all, even if you don't have super effective Pokemon. So, the real threat comes from the boss fight itself, which I should get to here in just a second. As one would imagine, Shiftry is the leader of Team Shifty, and he's the biggest threat, so you're going to want to focus him during this fight, especially since his nature power will turn into Stun Spore in this area, meaning he can group paralyze you. So I definitely recommend focusing him before you get shut down. But yeah, I kind of made it look like a breeze since I have super effective Pokemon, and I'm a bit over leveled for the team fight here. So, for taking out each team mission, you'll be rewarded a Ginseng, the same reward that you got from Makuhita for taking out all the type dungeons. Well, with that guys, I think I've shared everything I wanted to show for this episode. Really appreciate you guys hanging around and checking it out. So, join me in the next episode as we take down another new dungeon. Not entirely sure what it is yet. I'm kind of doing the post-game parts by the fly of my hat. Not even sure if that's a real expression, but I just made it up on the fly. So, have a blessed day, and I'll see you then.